I was walking my son to kindergarten on a busy Manhattan morning. The sun was just starting to burn off the last of the October chill. Leo's tiny hand was wrapped around two of my fingers, and his backpack was half unzipped as usual, with a stuffed dinosaur tail hanging out. He was 4 years old with dark curly hair that never stayed combed, and eyes that people always said looked like they held secrets. I called them his old soul eyes. We were late by 7 minutes. I had stayed up too late finishing a freelance graphic design project, and my alarm had betrayed me. The crosswalk light was green, and we were halfway across Madison Avenue when I heard it. An engine screaming. Not the normal city traffic kind that you learn to tune out. The kind that means someone isn't going to stop. The kind that makes your blood turn cold before your brain even processes the sound. I turned my head and saw a matte black Lamborghini barreling toward us. It was making an illegal right turn from the side street. The driver hadn't even tapped the brakes. The sun glinted off the windshield, so I couldn't see who was behind the wheel. But I could see the speed. I could see that we were directly in its path. "Mommy?" Leo's voice cracked with fear. There was no time to think, no time to calculate the safest direction to dive. I just grabbed him. I threw my body over his like a shield and twisted so that my back and legs would take the impact instead of his small frame. The car clipped my left leg just below the knee. The impact spun me around like a rag doll. I hit the pavement hard. My palms tore open on the asphalt and a sharp rock embedded itself in my right forearm. My knee screamed with a pain so intense that my vision went white for a second. But Leo was under me. Leo was breathing. I could feel his little heart hammering against my chest. Leo was alive. I pushed myself up on shaking arms. Blood was dripping from my hands onto his jacket. I checked every inch of him. His face was pale as milk and his lower lip was trembling. But he shook his head when I asked if anything hurt. He touched my cheek with his small, warm hand, and I saw tears in his eyes. "Mommy, you're bleeding." "I don't care, baby," I said. "Are you hurt? Tell Mommy the truth." He said no. He said the cord didn't touch him, and I almost collapsed with relief. Then I heard wheels clicking toward me, sharp and fast. Her sunglasses were huge, and her expression was pure annoyance mixed with something that might have been fear, but not for us. She looked about 22 and like she had never been told no in her entire privileged life. Her hair was perfectly blown out. Her nails were fresh, and her shoes probably cost more than my entire rent. "Do you have any idea how much that paint job costs?" she said. Her voice was high and sharp. "Do you have any idea?" She didn't look at my bleeding hands, didn't look at Leo's terrified face. She looked at her car. I got to my feet slowly. My knee was screaming, and I had to bite my lip to keep from crying out, but I forced myself to stand. I pulled Leo behind me. "You ran a red light," I said. My voice was shaking, but I kept it steady. "You hit me and my son in a crosswalk in front of a school, and you're worried about your paint?" She pulled off her sunglasses. "I have somewhere to be," she started. "This is none of your—" She stopped. Her eyes landed on Leo, and her face drained of color. I watched it happen in real time. First her cheeks went white, then her lips, then her whole face. Her mouth fell open. Her designer bag slipped from her fingers and hit the ground with a thud. She stared at Leo like she was seeing a ghost. Then she stared at me. Then back at Leo. Her hands started shaking. She took a step back and almost tripped over her own heels. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God. No, that's not possible." I pulled Leo closer to my side. I didn't know this woman. I didn't want to know her. But she was already pulling out her phone from a tiny clutch that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her fingers were trembling so badly she dropped it once before managing to unlock it. She dialed the number with shaking hands. The call connected, and she didn't even wait for the other person to speak. She just started screaming into the phone. Alexander, you need to come right now. I hit someone with my car. I hit a woman, and there's a little boy. He looks exactly like you. I'm not kidding. He has your eyes, your everything. I'm at the kindergarten on Madison, the one near the park. Please, just come, please." I heard a deep voice on the other end. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the sharpness, the demand. And then she hung up and looked at me with wet eyes. Her mascara was starting to run. "You can't leave," she said. Her voice was different now, softer, almost begging. Please don't leave. My brother is coming. He's going to want to see you, to see the boy. I didn't know what kind of insanity had just been unleashed, but I wasn't staying to find out. I had seen enough wealthy family drama in my life to know that getting involved was a mistake. I picked up Leo and started walking. My leg was on fire with every step, but I didn't care. Lady, I don't know who you are or who your brother is, I said without looking back. We're leaving. We need to get to school. She ran after me, her heels skidding on the pavement. She nearly fell twice. Please, I'm begging you, just wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes. My brother is Alexander Wolfe. He owns half this city. He'll want to... I didn't stop walking, but then I heard it. A convoy of black SUVs screaming down Madison Avenue.
3 of them, identical, tinted windows, no license plates that I could see. They didn't stop at the light. They just came through like the laws of traffic didn't apply to them, like the world was supposed to move aside. The middle SUV hadn't even fully stopped before the back door flew open and a man stepped out. He didn't wait for a driver or an assistant. He just emerged like a force of nature. I knew him. Everyone in New York knew him. Everyone in the country knew him. Alexander Wolfe, CEO of Wolfe Industries, heir to a fortune that people only whispered about in awe. He never gave interviews, never showed up at galas or charity events. His face was on the cover of Forbes once a year, and that was the only time anyone saw him. There were rumors about him, that he was cold, that he was ruthless, that he had buried 3 rival CEOs in his first year as head of the company. But he was real, and he was walking toward me with long, urgent strides. He was taller than I remembered from the photos, 6'4" at least. Dark hair pushed back from his forehead with a few strands falling loose, a jaw that could cut glass, shoulders that filled out his charcoal suit like it had been sewn onto him. And eyes the exact same shade as Leo's, that deep, warm brown that looked almost black in certain light. His sister was still crying about her car and her paint job, but he walked right past her. He didn't even glance at her. He walked straight to me, and he stopped about 2 feet away. His gaze moved from my face to Leo's face and back again, up and down, back and forth. I watched his composure crack. I saw the exact moment his heart recognized what his brain hadn't known to look for. His hands came up slightly, then dropped, then came up again. His chest was rising and falling too fast. Elena. He said my name like it was the first word he'd ever learned. Like he'd been holding it in his mouth for 4 years waiting to let it out. Like he'd been practicing it in the dark. I took a step back. My knees screamed, but I didn't care. I didn't know this man. Not anymore. The man I had known was dead. I had mourned him. I had buried him in my heart. Mr. Wolfe, I said. My voice was ice. Your sister hit me and my son with her car. We need to exchange insurance information. That's all. His jaw tightened. His eyes glistened. Elena, please. Please don't do that. Don't pretend you don't know me. Don't look at me like I'm a stranger. I held Leo tighter. His small body was warm against my hip. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. I've never met you in my life. He looked down at Leo, at the dark curls that matched his own, at the eyes that were a mirror of his, at the small nose and the shape of the mouth. And something in his face shattered. I saw it break. I saw the wall he had built crumble into dust. He dropped to his knees right there on the dirty New York sidewalk. His $1,000 trousers soaked up the grime and a piece of gum that someone had stepped in. He didn't care. He reached toward Leo but stopped himself. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. Elena, I thought you were dead, he said. His voice cracked. I thought they killed you. I had to disappear. I had to make everyone believe I was gone too. Because if they knew about you, if they knew I had someone I loved, someone I would burn the world down for, they would have used you as bait. They would have taken you and... He stopped. He couldn't finish. I spent 4 years tearing down every enemy I had just so I could come back and find you. 4 years of living in the shadows. 4 years of not knowing if you were alive or dead. And now you're here. You're real. And there's a boy. Our boy. I looked at him, at this powerful man kneeling in the street with tears running down his face. At the man who had once held me in his arms and promised me forever. And I felt the wall I had built around my heart start to crack. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Not after 4 years of silence. Not after 4 years of raising our son alone. Alexander, I said. My voice was quieter now. You let me believe you were dead. I carried that grief alone. I gave birth alone. I watched our son take his first steps alone. I heard him say his first word alone. Mama. Not Dada. Because there was no Dada. Because you disappeared without a trace. Without a word. Without a goodbye. I know. He stood up. His voice was raw, scraped clean. I know, and I will spend every day of the rest of my life making it up to you. But please, you're bleeding. Your hands, your leg. Let me take you somewhere safe. Let me explain everything. Let me tell you why I did what I did. His sister was standing behind him with her mouth open. She had stopped crying. She was just staring. Chloe, he said, without turning around. You're going to pay for this. Every medical bill, every therapy session if they need it. You're going to learn what responsibility means. You're going to learn that actions have consequences.
But Chloe started. No buts. He turned to look at her. His eyes were hard again. You're lucky I don't have you arrested. Now go wait in the car. Chloe opened her mouth, then closed it, then walked back to the SUV without another word. Alexander turned back to me. He held out his hand. Alina, just let me help you. Let me take care of you for once. Let me be there. I looked down at Leo. He was staring at Alexander with an expression I couldn't read. Not fear exactly. Not confusion. More like curiosity. Like he was seeing a puzzle he wanted to solve. Like he was recognizing something he had never been told about. Daddy, Leo whispered. Not a question. A statement. I felt my heart crack open. Alexander heard it too. His hand dropped. He looked at Leo with an expression of pure wonder. Yeah, buddy, he said. His voice broke on the second word. Yeah, I'm your daddy. I took a breath, and I took Alexander's hand. The black SUV was bigger on the inside than my first apartment. There was a minibar, leather seats that were warmer than my entire bedroom, a television screen folded into the ceiling, and windows so darkly tinted I could barely see the city passing by. Alexander sat across from me. He had wanted me to sit next to him, but I needed space. I needed to breathe. Leo sat between us, his small legs dangling. He was looking around at everything with wide eyes. A private doctor in a white coat was waiting when we arrived at the estate. Not a hospital. Alexander had insisted on a private facility. He said hospitals had too many people, too many questions, too many chances for information to leak. The building looked like an old mansion from the outside. Red brick, white columns, a long driveway lined with oak trees. But inside, it was all modern equipment and hushed voices and staff who moved like ghosts. The doctor cleaned my wounds. His hands were gentle but efficient. He stitched the deepest cut on my palm, 4 small stitches that pulled at my skin when I moved my fingers. He cleaned the rock out of my forearm and wrapped it in gauze. He examined my knee and pronounced it badly bruised but not fractured. Then he checked Leo. He listened to his heart, looked in his ears, shone a light in his eyes, and pronounced him perfectly healthy. Not a scratch, not a bruise. Throughout it all, Alexander stood in the corner. His arms were crossed over his chest. His jaw was tight. His eyes never left the doctor's hands. He watched every movement like he was ready to intervene at any second, like he didn't trust anyone in the room except himself. When the doctor finally left, packing up his instruments and promising to return in the morning to check the wounds, we were alone. Leo was sitting on the exam table, drawing on a piece of paper a nurse had given him. His tongue was sticking out slightly, the way it always did when he was concentrating. Alexander took a step toward me, then stopped, then took another step. 4 years ago, he said. His voice was low. He was looking at the floor. My uncle wanted control of the company. He had always wanted it, even when my father was alive. He thought he deserved it, thought it should have gone to him instead of to my father. And when my father died, when I inherited everything at 26, he saw red. He hired people. Bad people. The kind of people who don't ask questions. The kind who work for whoever pays the most. They threatened to kill anyone I loved. I had proof they were watching you, following you. There were photographs of you leaving your apartment, of you buying groceries, of you walking in the park. They knew where you lived, where you worked, what time you went to sleep. I couldn't protect you if they knew you mattered to me. So I staged my death. I let everyone believe I was gone. I let you believe I was gone. And I went underground to dismantle his entire network. He looked up at me. His eyes were red. It took 4 years, Elena. 4 years of living in hotel rooms under fake names. 4 years of not being able to call you, not being able to see you, not being able to hold you. I worked with the FBI, with private security firms, with people who owed me favors from years ago. But I took everything from him. His money, his connections, his allies, his freedom. He's in a federal prison now. Supermax. He's never getting out. And I came back to find you. But you had disappeared too. Your name wasn't in any database. You had vanished. I thought... He stopped. His voice cracked. I thought maybe they had found you after all. I thought maybe I was too late. I searched for you for 18 months before I found a single clue. And then it was just a rumor, a whisper. A woman with a little boy living in Brooklyn. A woman who kept to herself, who moved often. Who didn't use social media or leave digital footprints. But every time I got close, you moved. I didn't know it was you running from me. I thought you just wanted to hide from the world. I thought you had started a new life, a life that didn't include me. Alexander, I said. My voice was shaking now. I didn't know you were alive. I thought I was alone. I thought I was a single mother with no one to help me, no one to turn to. So I made myself small. I changed my name. I moved neighborhoods 6 times in 4 years. I paid for everything in cash. I didn't post pictures online. I didn't tell anyone where we lived. Because I was terrified. Because the man you used to be, the man I loved, was dead. And I didn't know who had killed him, or why, or if they would come for me and my son next. He crossed the room in 2 strides. His arms went around me. His face buried itself in my hair. His body was shaking. I could feel his heart pounding against my chest. So fast, so hard. I'm sorry, he whispered. His voice was muffled. I'm so sorry. I never meant to make you feel abandoned. I was trying to keep you safe, and I failed. I let you think you were alone. I let you raise our son without me. I missed everything. The pregnancy, the birth, the first smile, the first steps, the first words. I will never forgive myself for that. I stood there, frozen, my arms at my sides. I wanted to push him away. I wanted to hold him tighter. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to thank him for coming back. All of those feelings crashed into each other and canceled out, leaving me numb. But then Leo looked up. He saw Alexander holding me. He saw the tears on both our faces, and he said, "Is that my dad?" His voice was small, hopeful, like he had been waiting to ask that question for a long time. Alexander let go of me slowly. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Then he knelt down in front of Leo.
He was at eye level with our son. His hands rested on his knees. "Hey, buddy," he said. His voice was so gentle it barely sounded like the same man who had threatened to ruin his own uncle. "Yeah, I'm your dad. I know I haven't been around, and I know you don't know me, but I would really like to change that, if that's okay with you, if you'll let me." Leo studied him for a long moment. His little forehead was wrinkled in concentration. Then he held up the drawing he had been working on. It was a house, a square with a triangle on top, a sun in the corner, and 3 stick figures standing in front. One tall with dark hair, one medium with a smile, one small with a dinosaur in his hand. "This is us," Leo said. "I drew it for you. I drew it a long time ago, but I was saving it for when you came back." Alexander made a sound, something between a laugh and a sob.
Something raw and broken and beautiful. He took the drawing with trembling hands. He looked at it like it was the most precious thing he had ever seen. Then he pulled Leo into his arms, just as gently as he had held me, but even more carefully, like Leo was made of glass, like he was afraid of breaking him. I watched them, my son and the man I had loved, the man I had mourned, the man who was somehow alive and real and holding our child. And I felt the last of my resistance crumble. The next few weeks were a blur of activity and adjustment. Alexander moved us into his penthouse that very night. He said it was temporary, just until I healed, just until we figured things out. But I could tell he had no intention of ever letting us leave. The penthouse took up the entire top floor of a building on Central Park West, 82nd Street. The views were ridiculous. The living room had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the park. The kitchen was bigger than any apartment I had ever lived in. And there was a nursery that Alexander had clearly prepared months ago. He admitted later that he had set it up as soon as he heard the rumor about a woman with a little boy in Brooklyn, before he even knew if it was us. There were toys already arranged on the shelves, books stacked on the nightstand, a small bed with dinosaur sheets. Leo loved it immediately. He ran from room to room, his laughter echoing off the marble floors. He discovered a playroom filled with every toy he had ever pointed at in a store window. He found a closet full of clothes in his exact size. He met a chef who made him chocolate chip pancakes shaped like animals. Alexander followed him everywhere, pretending to be a monster, chasing him down the hallways, letting himself get caught, letting Leo tickle him until he begged for mercy. I stood in the doorway of the playroom, watching them. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt something that might have been hope. But the peace didn't last. 3 weeks after the accident, Alexander got a call in the middle of dinner. We were eating at the long dining table. Leo was pushing his peas around his plate.
Alexander was telling a story about a business deal that had gone wrong. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed. It went cold, hard, distant. He stood up and walked to the window. His back was to us. "No," I said. "You tell them the answer is no." There was a long pause. Then he said, "I don't care what grandfather wants. Elena is my wife. We were married before you decided to erase her from the records. And Leo is my son, the only heir to Wolfe Industries. If anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with my lawyers." He hung up without saying goodbye, but his jaw was still tight. His shoulders were still rigid. I walked over to him. Leo was still eating his peas. "Who was that?" I asked. He ran a hand through his hair. It was a gesture I remembered from before. He used to do it when he was stressed, before meetings, before difficult conversations. "My family," he said. "They found out about you, about Leo, about the accident. My grandfather wants to meet. He says he wants to welcome you to the family. But I know him. He's going to try to push you out, offer you money to leave, threaten you. Something like that. He's been controlling the family for 40 years. He doesn't like surprises. And you?" He paused. "You're a surprise." I crossed my arms over my chest. Let him try.
I said. I've been through worse than an angry old man. I raised our son alone for 4 years thinking you were dead. I'm not afraid of his money or his threats. Alexander turned to look at me. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. It was the first real smile I had seen from him since the accident. That's my girl, he said. That's the woman I fell in love with. The meeting was set for the following Saturday at the Wolfe family estate in Greenwich. The drive took 45 minutes, most of it through winding roads lined with stone walls and ancient trees. The mansion was ridiculous. Iron gates, a driveway that went on for what felt like miles, a fountain that was bigger than my entire apartment, a lawn that looked like it was trimmed with scissors. I wore a navy dress that Alexander had picked out. Simple but expensive. He said it was important to look like I belonged. Leo wore a tiny suit, complete with a bow tie that he kept trying to pull off. He kept tugging at the collar and making faces. We walked into the grand foyer and immediately felt the cold. Not the temperature, the atmosphere. The walls were lined with portraits of ancestors, all of them staring down at us with judging eyes. The Wolfe family was gathered in the living room, a massive space with high ceilings and a fireplace that could have roasted an entire pig. Alexander's grandfather sat in a wingback chair by the fire. He was in his 80s, but his eyes were sharp, calculating, predatory. Around him stood aunts and uncles and cousins, 12 of them at least, all dressed in expensive clothes, all staring at us like we were intruders, like we had no right to be there. Alexander kept his hand on the small of my back, steadying me. His touch was warm and grounding. "Grandfather," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "This is Elena, my wife, and Leo, my son." The old man studied me for a long moment. His eyes moved from my face to my dress to my shoes to my hands, then back to my face. "I heard you were dead," he said. His voice was dry, like old paper. I met his gaze. I didn't look away. "I heard the same about your grandson." Someone in the room gasped. A woman, maybe an aunt. Alexander's grandfather didn't blink. He just stared at me for another long moment. Then he laughed. It was a dry sound. No humor in it. Just acknowledgement. "So you've got teeth after all," he said. "I'll give you that. Most people crumble when they stand in this room. But spirit doesn't run a company," he continued. "It doesn't protect you from the wolves in this world. What do you want from us? Money? A position? A name for your son?" Alexander stepped forward. He positioned himself slightly in front of me. "He doesn't want anything from you," Alexander said. "But I do. I want you to acknowledge my wife and son. Publicly. Fully. With all the rights and protections that come with the Wolfe name. I want them in the family records. I want them at family events. I want them treated with respect." Alexander's uncle spoke up, a man in his 50s with a sneer and a bad haircut. He had been leaning against the fireplace, arms crossed, looking smug. "You can't be serious," he said. "She's nobody. She's a woman who trapped you with a pregnancy. She probably planned the whole thing. The car accident, the dramatic reunion, all of it." Alexander turned to him, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. The air grew heavy. "Uncle Philip," he said. His voice was soft, which made it more terrifying. "I have documentation of every offshore account you've been hiding from the IRS. Every affair, every bribe you've taken, every deal you've made behind the company's back. I was going to keep that information to myself, out of respect for my father's memory. But if you ever speak about my wife that way again, if you ever imply that she is anything other than the mother of my child and the love of my life, I will ruin you. Publicly. Completely. And I will enjoy doing it." Philip's face went pale. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No sound came out. Alexander's grandfather laughed again, that same dry sound. "So you've got teeth after all?" He looked at me, and at Leo, who was hiding behind my leg, peeking out. "Fine," he said. "You want acknowledgement? you'll have it. A press release, a family dinner, whatever you need. But don't expect me to pretend this is what I wanted. I don't need you to pretend, Alexander said. I just need you to stay out of our way. He took my hand and we walked out of that room, heads high. The ride back to the city was quiet.
Leo fell asleep in his car seat, his tiny chest rising and falling. His bow tie was undone and hanging loose. Alexander reached across the seat and took my hand, his fingers intertwined with mine. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't expect him to be that difficult. I squeezed his fingers. I faced worse than a grumpy old man, I said. I faced childbirth alone, remember? He laughed. It was a tired sound. I remember. I was there. In spirit. I squeezed his fingers again, harder this time. You owe me, I said. For every birthday, every Christmas, every sleepless night. He nodded. I know, he said. And I will spend the rest of my life paying you back. The public announcement came 2 days later. Wolfe Industries issued a press release, brief and to the point. No drama, no explanation, just the facts. It said that Alexander Wolfe had been married to Elena Vasquez for 5 years, that they had a son named Leonardo Wolfe, and that the family was overjoyed to welcome them to the Wolfe legacy. The media went crazy. My face was everywhere. Photos from our wedding, photos that Alexander had kept hidden all these years. Suddenly, I couldn't walk down the street without being recognized. People stopped me in coffee shops. Journalists called my old phone number. Strangers sent me messages on social media. But Alexander was always there, his hand on my back, his presence a shield, his security team clearing a path.
A month after the announcement, Alexander organized a charity gala. He said it was for a children's hospital, but I knew the real reason. It was a stage, a way to present us to the world on his terms, a way to say, this is my family, and anyone who has a problem with that can answer to me. The night of the gala, I wore a silver dress that glittered like water under the chandeliers. It had taken 3 fittings to get it right. Leo wore a tiny tuxedo, complete with a real bow tie that he had promised not to pull. And Alexander looked like a king. His suit was black, his tie was black, his shoes were polished to a mere shine. But his eyes were soft when he looked at us. We walked down the red carpet together, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Alexander didn't answer any of them. He just kept walking, his hand firmly holding mine, his other hand resting on Leo's shoulder. When we reached the main hall, the ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, he pulled me aside, away from the crowd, behind a column. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, I admitted. Good, he smiled. Me too. He led me to the stage. The crowd quieted. The music faded. Alexander took the microphone from the podium. His voice was steady, but I could see his hand trembling slightly. Thank you all for coming tonight, he said. His voice carried through the room, echoing off the crystal chandeliers. But I have a different reason for being here than charity. I'm here to make something clear. He turned to look at me and at Leo, who was standing beside me holding a juice box. For the past 5 years, he said, I have been searching for something I thought I lost. But it turns out I didn't lose it. I just hadn't found it yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I thought we were past proposals, I whispered. He smiled. We are, he said quietly, just for the microphone. But I never got to do this right the first time. The first time we were in a courthouse with a judge who didn't speak English as his first language and witnesses who were strangers. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, a simple platinum band with a single diamond. Nothing flashy, just beautiful, just perfect. Elena, he said. His voice was louder now, carrying to every corner of the room. I know we're already married on paper, but I want to marry you for real, in front of everyone, with our son watching, with no secrets, no running, no fear, just us. The crowd gasped. Cameras flashed. Someone dropped a glass. Leo tugged on my dress. Mommy, he said. His voice was loud in the sudden silence. Say yes. I laughed. I cried.
And I said yes, 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 yes. Alexander slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He had remembered my size. After 4 years, he had remembered. Then he pulled me into a kiss, right there on stage, in front of hundreds of people, in front of cameras that would broadcast the image around the world. Leo clapped, his small hands making a soft sound, and the whole room erupted in applause. That was 3 years ago. We had a real wedding 6 months later, a small ceremony in the garden of the Penthouse. Just close friends, just the people who mattered. Alexander's sister Chloe came. She had spent the past 3 years in therapy. She had apologized more times than I could count. She had genuinely changed. She was no longer the spoiled girl who complained about her paint job. She was a woman who had learned that actions have consequences. She stood beside me as a bridesmaid, and she cried more than I did. Leo served as the ring bearer. He took his job very seriously. He walked down the aisle with a velvet pillow clutched to his chest. His face was scrunched in concentration. He did not drop the rings. Alexander still works too much. I still remind him to come home for dinner. Leo still draws pictures of our family. They cover the walls of his room now, and the hallway, and the refrigerator. Hundreds of them. Different colors, different sizes, different levels of artistic skill. But always 3 people. Always together. Sometimes a dog. We don't have a dog, but Leo says we will, and I suspect Alexander will buy him one soon. Tonight, Leo is asleep in his bed.
His dinosaur sheets are twisted around his legs. His stuffed wolf is tucked under his arm. Alexander is sitting on the couch in the living room, reading a report on his tablet. His reading glasses are perched on his nose. He looks softer in the lamplight, less like the CEO who terrifies boardrooms, more like the man I fell in love with. I am sitting across from him, pretending to read a book, but really, I am watching them. This man who came back from the dead, this boy who saved my life without even knowing it. I think about that morning on the crosswalk, the screech of tires, the pain in my leg, the moment everything changed. I didn't know then that getting hit by a car would lead me here, to this penthouse, this family, this love, this second chance. But sometimes the worst moments are just the beginning, and the people who knock you down are the same ones who help you stand back up. Alexander looks up from his tablet. He catches me staring. "What?" he says. "Nothing," I say. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how I used to believe that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me." He sets down the tablet. He takes off his glasses. "And now," he says, "now I know it was the thing that made me strong enough to keep you." He crosses the room in 3 long strides. He pulls me up from the couch. His arms wrap around my waist. His forehead rests against mine. "I'm not going anywhere," he says. His voice is low, warm. "I know," I say.
This time, I believe you. And I do. After everything, after the accident and the secrets and the years of silence, after the family battles and the public declarations, after the tears and the laughter, and the thousands of small moments that rebuilt us, I believe him. He kisses me. Softly. Gently. Like we have all the time in the world. Because now, we do.